This video shows what you need to know to begin quilting with your HQ Sweet 16. To pull up the bobbin thread, press the foot pedal, press it again. The needle will go down and up, move the fabric aside, and bring up your bobbin thread. And now press the foot pedal again to do some tie-off stitches. Let's get comfortable with free motion quilting. First step is to practice drawing on paper, a dry erase board, or Quilter's preview paper from Handi Quilter. Practice, practice, practice. One of the easiest designs to do is stippling. Notice how the stippling has the same density, the same shape. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. Don't cross over the lines. Just continue practicing. Same density. Think of a shape. Think of a quarter, or a nickel, or a dime. To make free motion quilting easier, we recommend meander quilting gloves. Let's do some stippling. Curves around. Choose a size. This is about the size of maybe a pencil head or a nickel or a dime. Keep your hands close to the area so that you have control of the fabric, and just move it in and out and up and around. Inside, don't cross over your lines. Keep your shapes about the same size. Decide which density you want and stay with that density in the quilting. To bring the bobbin up and tie off, press your needle up button on your screen. Move your fabric aside. Grab a hold of the thread with your left hand. Press your needle up button. Go down and up, move the fabric aside, and it brings up the bobbin thread to trim. Now let's move on to loops. Loop in and out, over and under. Same density. Now let's add a shape. Put a heart to it. Loop again, loop again. Let's add another shape, a star. Loop, 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 up and down, in and out. Let's add another shape. Let's put a leaf in it. So think of all the different quilts that you can quilt with hearts or stars or leaves, or add another shape that's comfortable. Now let's do some loops. Loop around, flip that loop, loop around. Keep the same speed so your stitches are the same length, and loop, loop. Now let's put a heart to that. Create a heart, and now go out of that heart, put a loop into that, flip those loops. Now another heart going in the opposite direction. Practice doing your hearts in all different directions. Loop out of that, flip your loop around. Here comes another heart. Loop. Loop out of that, fill that area. Adjust your hands. Rotate your fabric. Loops. Loop again. Now let's try stars. The 5-point star. Count as you do those stars. Loop, loop. And as you do a star, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Get you that accurate star. Going out of there, create another loop, and fill the area around it. Loop. Adjust your hands as you go. Now let's do a leaf. Create that vine on the leaf. Around, make a nice plump leaf, loop it out, loop again, Create another loop. Now let's create another leaf, the vine, and then around the leaf, loop. Fill your area and keep the density the same. Now let's move on to spirals. As you go inside of the spiral, leave enough space to come out and quilt around. Spiral, spiral around, out. Use the spirals to travel to a new area. This is called echoing around. Go in, fill the area, echo back out, create a spiral, come in, out, go in and fill the areas, create spirals. This is a great fill for a lot of quilts. You can do little spirals or large. Create, go outside, spiral, echo around, echo, and do some more spirals. Now, let's try a new design with that. Let's call it, it's paisley. Same type of effect, just go in, make a teardrop, echo around it, use the echo to travel from one place to another. You can use 2 or 3 times to echo around that. Larger ones, smaller ones. Now let's move into swirls. Circle around, circle out. Save enough space in that circle to be able to get out. Circle around, circle out. You can create those circles that have points, or you can just do a nice smooth curve. Circle around, circle out. Travel around that. You can echo around to get to your next travel path. Circle around, circle out, travel around, create your curl, around, circle out and around, takes you to the next path. Adjust your hands and continue circling. Travel around, create another circle, around. It doesn't matter how many times you go around that circle, keep them consistent, but you can create large circles or small circles. Now let's move on to the windy meander. Curl around, out, inside, and spiral around. Notice how the echoing around helps me go from one place to another. It's that travel path. Drying is so important to get that perfect design. This is a design that you can quilt large and small at the same time. Now let's create a windy meander. Create a curl around, go bounce out, bounce back in, and circle around. Create another one, circle around, bounce out, follow the line, go back in, and circle around. Create another one. Create another one, echo around, circle around, bounce out, in, and around. By circling around, it helps you change directions and travel from one path to another. Circle around, bounce in, around. Now let's try feathers. Create your spine and then start creating teardrops. Make a little bed for that next one to lay in as you go across. They don't all have to be the same size. Now we're going to go the other direction. Notice that we drew from the right to the left, and now we're drawing from the left to the right. You'll have to find what direction works best for you. Now let's do the formal feather. Create a spine, put a feather on it, and then we create a teardrop, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace, hook back. Now, I definitely can quilt better than I can draw. I do know that. So notice that as you practice, you will find the same thing. Practicing will make your quilting better. Again, hook, retrace, hook, retrace, hook, retrace and hook back, hook, retrace, hook back, hook, retrace and hook back, hook, retrace and hook back. Practice this one for a while and you'll feel really comfortable with it. Notice as the retrace did not go exactly over the top of the stitching. And there are some different spacings. One thing you can do is you can echo around this, and then you can fill in that little echo space with some stippling or some pebbling, and that will totally hide those goof ups, as we call them, that we made. Now let's stitch some feathers. First, we want to stitch that spine. Stitch a little feather, create a bed, make the next one up and around, make nice round feathers. Doesn't matter if you touch the spine or not. It's your choice. Around, make sure that you make a nice little bed for that next feather to lay in. Now let's take the bottom and go the other direction. Around, create the next feather. They don't have to touch the spine. They can if you choose. You are the queen of the quilt. Create those feathers all the way down and finish that spine. Finish your final feather there. Now let's create some formal feathers. Create your spine, a teardrop, and stitch back over the spine. As we get to the end of the spine, we're going to create a little teardrop. Then we're going to make a forward hook right on the top of that feather. Retrace over the top and a backward hook down to the spine. Now we'll do a forward hook onto the spine, onto the feather, and then a backward hook back. Forward hook onto the feather, retrace over the top and back. Forward hook, retrace over the top, and a back hook back to the spine. A forward hook, retrace, back to the spine. Fill that in. Now go back to the first again. Make your teardrop, a forward hook. Make sure that you get a good cleavage on those feathers so that they have a definition. Forward hook, retrace, and then a backward hook to create the next feather. A forward hook, retrace, a backward hook to make the next feather. Adjust your hands and continue on. Forward hook, retrace. Now you can also echo over the feathers. Then we can fill these feathers in. Then we can fill the echo in with little stippling or pebbles. This helps make the feathers pop. Just wiggle back and forth in that echo area to fill that area in, and the feathers will really show. See how defined they're looking? You can use long arm rulers with your HQ Sweet 16. Make sure that the rulers are 1/4 inch thick. Position the ruler up against the hopping foot and begin stitching. Stop when you need to move the ruler. Press the ruler up, making sure that the fabric is in position, the ruler is in position, and your hands are in the correct position. Your hands need to be right up close to the hopping foot. Turn your fabric, reposition your ruler, and then continue stitching. This is a great way to get stitch in the ditch or straight line quilting. Press the ruler up against the hopping foot. Stop and then continue stitching. Stop, adjust the ruler, and then continue stitching. There are other rulers available for the HQ Sweet 16, such as the Versatool, circles, or swags. This is the Versatool, and it has a half circle on one end. You can make clamshells. Adjust the ruler, align it with the stitching line, holding the ruler, stitch around, holding firm, pressing against the hopping foot, keeping your hands close on the ruler and against the hopping foot. Adjust, stitch to the line. Turn the quilt sandwich and create a full circle. Remember to press the ruler against the hopping foot. When you feel like you're losing control, stop and reposition your hands. On the other end of the Versatool is a more gradual arc. When it comes to the end, change your ruler and stitch back. You can make leaves or continuous curve arcs. On the side of the Versatool is a right angle. Notice how positioning that, you can create right angles, zigzag effect, any size just by adjusting the ruler. When you want greater visibility of the stitching, we offer an optional open toe hopping foot.